Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Joe here with the Wooden Iron Cookie. Today we're going to be doing some canned chicken drumsticks, and we're starting off outside, but we're going to be doing it inside on the stove in the house. It's another beautiful rainy day. It's cold and it's pretty windy out, so we're going to take this in the house and I'm going to show you all our setup. I'm using a pressure canner today, and I've actually water bathed meats before, but it takes a long time. It takes about 3 hours, and a lot of people, they frown on water bathing meats, but they've been doing it for years, and I haven't died from it. So, but on a pressure canner for meats, and it's 75 minutes a pint, 90 minutes a quart, and we're going to be doing quarts and a couple pints. And also, depending on the region you live in and the altitude, it varies for different places for the poundage that you'll use on your pressure canner. Where I'm at in southern Indiana, I use 11 pounds. It may go to 12 or so, but it's okay. But yeah, I'm gonna bring you inside. We're gonna get out of this cold, and I figured I'd start it out here. The lighting's a little bit better out here than it is in my cabin. It's like a dungeon in there sometimes, but yeah, we'll get right to it right now. If you all like this video, please consider giving me a thumbs up and subscribing. Leave me a comment, any tips you got or what you do different, and we're gonna get right to it. So here we have our chicken, and I'm gonna try to get a few in each jar. I'm limited on how many wide mouth jars I have, and I'm gonna use a couple pints. I have one wide mouth and a couple small mouths. They're a little harder to get in the small mouths, but we're gonna try to make it happen. Now I've got a couple different salts here. I wanted to show you the difference. When you're canning, you want to use either this pickling and canning salt, or you want to use like a pink salt, Himalayan salt, the real salts. You do not want to use iodized salt. You do not want this. It's not good for canning. You don't want it. So all we're going to do when we can this is I'm going to put a teaspoon of coarse black pepper and a teaspoon of pickling and canning salt to a jar. And that may be different for the pints, but that's what I'm gonna put in the quarts. So you'll want about half of that in your pints, depending on how many I can get in each one. And then over here, we got our old canner. We got a couple of these, and as you can see, it needs cleaned up. But I have a well here, and I use well water, and it's got minerals and stuff in it more so than city water, and it kind of gets all over the place. But that's the canner we're going to use, and I have a 10-pound weight on it. That'll allow it don't really get much over 12 and a half pounds, and then it'll start really dancing up there. But that's the canner we're going to use. And when I do that, I'll just put a little water in it, and I'll drop some white vinegar in it to just kind of help with the jars, keep them cleaner. All right, so we're going to can up, and we'll show that. All right, so we're going to put some of this chicken in our jars. I've got a tripod rigged up a little bit. That one ain't going to work. Let's see how many of these we can fit in. I'm not going to show you every jar, but we'll try to get a few in each one here. It looks like that's going to work for that one. Maybe get this down in there. So I got 3 in this wide mouth. It may not work as good with these smaller mouth ones. We're going to try to get at least 3. We'll put the smaller ones in these pint jars. That would be nice to take back to camp with us. Heck, I'm going to get a few of these in there. Let's see if I can shove that down in there. So you kind of get the hang of what I'm doing here. ain't gonna show you all of them, but whenever I get done, I'll bring you back. So we ended up with 4 quarts and 2 pints. I was only able to put 1 drum per pint, which I'm okay with because I can take that back to camp. And that'll be good in like a canteen cup, just a little pot of something. And what I'm doing now is I have white vinegar on this paper towel, and you want to use that to sterilize and clean around your jars before you put your lids on, and that'll help them seal. If you don't do that, which whenever I first started doing this, I had a few jars not seal on me, and it'll definitely affect your process. So I'm just wiping them off, and these jars are cold since it's cold canning, cold packing. And what all I'm gonna do is wipe the jars off. You don't put any juice in them or nothing. It'll make its own juice when it cooks down. But I'm just gonna put my lids on and my rings on them, and you just want your rings finger tight over it. But first I'm gonna add the salt and pepper, and after I do that, I'll show you, and then I'll put my lids and rings on, stick them in the canner, and show you that. Alright, so I'm just going to show you these 2 here. So I got 3 per quart jar except 1, and as you can tell I put a little salt and pepper in them, and then I've got 1 in each pint jar, which like I said, we'll take that back to camp. Now all I'm going to do is set them in the canner. Everything's cold. The lids were cold, the rings are cold, the water with the little vinegar's cold in the canner. I'm going to put everything in, put the lid on, start it up, and you let it warm up to where the steam starts to come out the top of the spout on the canner before you put your weight on it, and you let that go about 10 minutes, and I'll show you that process. But right now we got our jars all made up. I put about a half a teaspoon of pepper and about a 1/4 teaspoon in each jar. I changed my mind. So I'll show you that here in just a second when we get it put in our canner. Alright, so here we have everything in the canner. You don't add a bunch of water. I'm not sure if you can even see that. But the water is about probably 1.5 inches up on the jars, and I put an empty one with water in it in the middle. And what that'll do is it'll allow the jars to not move around as much, and it'll help, you know, with the heat and everything. So now what we're gonna do is put the lid on it and start it off slow and let it warm them up and build up pressure, and I'll bring you back whenever that starts to steam. Hey, I just wanted to say real quick, when I say the jars are cold, they're just room temperature. They're not like out of the refrigerator cold. I just wanted to clarify that because I kept saying cold. They're just not warm, because normally when you do stuff that's already cooked, like say a sauce or a soup or something, you'd let your jars sit in hot water, like in your sink and your rings and lids. That way everything's kind of the same temperature. So you definitely you don't need to put them in the refrigerator. When I say they're cold, they're just room temperature. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you. All right, here we are steaming. As you can see, this is what I was talking about. When it starts to really put off a lot of steam like that, you let that go for about 10 minutes, and it lets everything start to acclimate in the canner to get the right temperature and just everything get going right. And what I'll do is, after 10 minutes, I'll throw the weight on it and then let it get up to 11 pounds and start my timer for 90 minutes. Alright, it's been 10 minutes and she's really been putting it out. So all we're going to do is take our 10-pound weight and put right on the top of it. And then I'll wait for it to get up to right in here is 11 pounds. That big line's 10 and then 11. And I'll wait for it to get up to that. And then we'll start our timer. All right, here we have a few minutes later. It's up to about 12 pounds. I just turned it down a little. So what happens with that weight is, being a 10 pound, it'll get over 12 just a little, and you can see it bubbling. It'll start to actually dance around on there, and it helps keep it to where it doesn't go too much. They make all sorts of different size weights. You can see it start dancing a little bit there. But yeah, that one works good for our altitude, and being at 11 pounds. You can see it climbing a little. But it'll get to about 12 and a half, almost 13, and it'll start releasing steam. So we're gonna set our timer for 90 minutes, and then I'll bring you back whenever we're done. All right, so it's been an hour and a half, 90 minutes. Timer just went off. So all I do now is I go up here and just turn it off. And what I'll do is I'll wait for the temperature to drop in it, and this will drop all the way down, and that button right there will drop down. And then after that, I just crack the lid, don't open it, and let it set for 10 minutes after that. And you can already tell it's starting to change sound. So we'll wait a few, and I'll bring you back whenever that pressure button drops down and we're ready to crack it. All right, as you can tell, our button right there is dropped, and I turned, so when this is locked, it goes this way and these handles line up. And all I've done is unlocked it, and it's not loose, it's still on there, but I'll wait 10 minutes and then just lift the lid off and pull my jars out and set them down, and I'll give you a look at that. And then I have one that I canned, I think it's November. I did some chicken and pork, and I'll show you that. That way you can get an after look of what it looks like after it cools. Also, while I've been waiting, I started a fermentation of onions, and I put a little basil in them. That's a quart jar, and it'll take about 3 weeks, 4 weeks for that to get done. If that's a video that you'd like to see, leave me a comment, and I do all sorts of fermentations, so let me know if that's something you'd like to look at. All right, so I just pulled it out and stuck it on this cutting board on the table. As you can see, it's still bubbling. You may actually hear them here and there start to pop and seal. So there's 2 in that, 3 in quart jars, except 1. And then in the pint, I just stuck 1 in there, and you can see it makes its own juice. And they're fully cooked, and all that's in it, salt and pepper. And here's one I canned in November, and you can see the top of it, but it's all still edible and good. I mean, you can pop the jar open and eat it right out of the jar without heating it up. And what I'll do is cover those with a towel and just let them cool overnight. Take your rings off, wash everything up real good, and then mark them up and put them back on the shelf. So yeah, if you like these videos of canning, I can do more. Just leave me a comment and let me know if this is something you'd like to see. And there we have our canned chicken drums. All right, everybody. Well, that concludes today's video. I appreciate everybody watching. If you like this video, please smash that thumbs up, give me a subscribe and share. Leave a comment. Tell me if you do anything different. If you'd like to see something different. We can a little bit of everything here. So with that, I hope everybody has a good Sunday. Have a good week, and we'll see you again next time.